Hello, my dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of our whispered journey through history. Today, we're diving into a period of profound religious transformation that reshaped Europe, the Reformation. Imagine Europe in the early 16th century. The Catholic Church dominates religious life, holding immense power and influence over both the spiritual and political realms. The Church's authority is virtually unchallenged, and its practices, such as the sale of indulgences, payments made to reduce punishment for sins, are widespread. However, beneath the surface, there is growing discontent among many who see corruption and moral decay within the Church. This discontent sets the stage for one of the most significant upheavals in European history. One of the earliest voices of dissent comes from John Wycliffe, an English theologian and scholar in the late 14th century. Wycliffe criticizes the Church's wealth and corruption and calls for a return to a more spiritual and less materialistic Christianity. He translates the Bible into English, making it accessible to the common people and challenging the Church's control over religious texts. Wycliffe's ideas, though suppressed, plant seeds of reform that will later take root. In the early 15th century, Jan Hus, a Czech priest and professor, emerges as another early reformer. Influenced by Wycliffe's writings, Hus preaches against the moral failings of the clergy and the Church's excessive power. He advocates for church reform and greater reliance on the Bible. Hus's outspoken views lead to his excommunication and, ultimately, his execution by burning at the stake in 1415. His martyrdom sparks a series of revolts known as the Hussite Wars, highlighting the growing tension between reformist ideas and established church authority. As we move into the early 16th century, the call for reform intensifies. In 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther nails his 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Castle Church. These theses challenge the Church's practice of selling indulgences and question the authority of the Pope. Luther argues that salvation comes through faith alone, not through monetary transactions or good works. His ideas spread rapidly, thanks in part to the recent invention of the printing press, which allows for the widespread distribution of his writings. Luther's actions ignite a firestorm of debate and controversy. He is summoned to the Diet of Worms in 1521, where he is asked to recant his teachings. Luther refuses, famously declaring, "Here I stand, I can do no other." He is declared an outlaw, but his ideas continue to spread, gaining support among many who are frustrated with the Church's abuses. The Protestant Reformation has begun, leading to the establishment of new Christian denominations separate from the Roman Catholic Church. As Luther's ideas take hold in Germany, the Reformation spreads to other parts of Europe. In Switzerland, a reformer named Ulrich Zwingli begins preaching in Zurich, advocating for a return to the simplicity of early Christianity and emphasizing the authority of the Scriptures. Zwingli's reforms include the removal of images from churches, the abolition of the Mass, and the introduction of a more participatory form of worship. His ideas lead to significant changes in the religious landscape of Switzerland. Meanwhile, in France, John Calvin emerges as a leading figure of the Reformation. Calvin's theological writings, particularly his Institutes of the Christian Religion, articulate a comprehensive system of Protestant beliefs. He emphasizes the doctrine of predestination, the idea that God has already chosen who will be saved, and advocates for a form of church governance that includes both clergy and lay people. Calvin establishes a theocratic government in Geneva, which becomes a center for Reformed Protestantism and attracts followers from across Europe. The Reformation also has a profound impact on England. Initially, the English Reformation is driven by political rather than theological motives. King Henry VIII seeks to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, but the Pope refuses to grant the annulment. In response, Henry breaks with the Catholic Church and declares himself the head of the Church of England. This separation allows for the introduction of Protestant reforms, although the English Reformation takes a more gradual and moderate approach compared to the radical changes seen in other parts of Europe. As the Reformation progresses, it leads to significant social and political changes. The rise of Protestantism challenges the previously unchallenged authority of the Catholic Church, leading to religious wars and conflicts across the continent. The Peace of Augsburg in 1555 attempts to address these conflicts by allowing the rulers of each German state to choose between Catholicism and Lutheranism for their territories, but religious tensions continue to simmer. So, my dear listeners, we've set the stage for this incredible journey. Stay with us as we delve deeper into the unfolding drama of the Reformation, exploring the key events, figures, and consequences that shaped this pivotal moment in history. As the Reformation spreads, it not only transforms religious practices but also triggers profound social and political upheavals across Europe. The early sparks lit by figures like Martin Luther and Ulrich Zwingli ignite broader movements that challenge the very foundations of society. The printing press, a relatively new invention, plays a crucial role in disseminating reformist ideas quickly and widely, making it possible for ordinary people to engage with theological debates like never before. In Germany, the Reformation rapidly gains momentum. Luther's writings, translated into the vernacular, become accessible to a broad audience, spreading his ideas far and wide. His emphasis on faith alone and the authority of the Scriptures resonates with many who are disillusioned with the corruption and excesses of the Catholic Church. The Protestant Reformation attracts not only theologians and scholars, but also lay people and local rulers who see an opportunity to assert their independence from the Pope and the Holy Roman Emperor. The political implications of the Reformation become evident as various German princes and city-states declare their support for Lutheranism. These leaders see in the Reformation a chance to gain greater autonomy and control over their own territories. This alignment of religious conviction with political ambition leads to a series of conflicts known as the Wars of Religion. These wars are not just about theology, they are also about power, territory, and the future shape of Europe. The Peace of Augsburg in 1555 represents a temporary resolution to these conflicts. This agreement allows the rulers of each German state to choose either Catholicism or Lutheranism as the official religion of their territory, a principle known as cuius regio, ius religio, whose realm is religion. While the Peace of Augsburg brings a measure of stability, it does not include other emerging Protestant sects, such as Calvinism, and thus, religious tensions continue to simmer beneath the surface. Meanwhile, in Switzerland, the Reformation takes a different but equally transformative path under the leadership of Ulrich Zwingli in Zurich and later John Calvin in Geneva. Zwingli's reforms focus on returning to the simplicity of early Christianity, stripping churches of images and relics, and emphasizing the centrality of the Bible. His ideas gained traction, leading to significant changes in religious practices and church governance in Swiss cities. John Calvin's influence extends beyond Switzerland. His theological writings, especially the Institutes of the Christian Religion, provide a systematic and comprehensive exposition of Protestant doctrine. Calvin's emphasis on predestination and the sovereignty of God shapes Reformed theology. Under his leadership, Geneva becomes a model of a Protestant city with strict moral codes and a church governance system that includes both clergy and lay people. Calvin's Geneva attracts reformers from across Europe, spreading his ideas far and wide. The Reformation also makes significant inroads in France, although it faces fierce resistance from the Catholic majority and the French monarchy. French Protestants, known as Huguenots, find themselves in a precarious position. They face persecution and violence, culminating in events like the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre in 1572, where thousands of Huguenots are killed. Despite the dangers, the Huguenot community persists, contributing to the broader European Protestant movement and seeking refuge in more tolerant regions. In England, the Reformation takes on a unique character. Initially driven by King Henry VIII's personal and political motivations, the English Reformation gradually incorporates more Protestant elements under his successors. Henry's break with Rome establishes the Church of England, with the monarch as its supreme head. This separation allows for the introduction of Protestant reforms, although the extent and nature of these reforms vary under different rulers. Henry's son, Edward VI, embraces Protestantism more fully, instituting significant changes in church practices and theology. However, his reign is short-lived, and his sister Mary I, a devout Catholic, ascends to the throne, attempting to restore Catholicism and persecuting Protestants. This period of religious turbulence comes to an end with the accession of Elizabeth I, who establishes a moderate Protestant settlement known as the Elizabethan Religious Settlement. This compromise seeks to unite the nation by incorporating elements of both Protestantism and traditional Catholic practices. The Reformation's impact extends beyond religious institutions to the very fabric of European society. The questioning of religious authority encourages the questioning of political and social hierarchies. Ideas of individual conscience and personal faith contribute to the development of modern notions of human rights and individual liberties. The rise of literacy, driven by the spread of printed religious texts, fosters a more informed and engaged populace. Moreover, the Reformation's emphasis on direct access to the scriptures leads to the translation of the Bible into various vernacular languages. This democratization of religious knowledge empowers individuals to interpret religious texts for themselves, diminishing the clergy's monopoly on religious interpretation. The cultural and intellectual flourishing that accompanies the Reformation sets the stage for the Enlightenment and the subsequent development of modern science and philosophy. As the Reformation progresses, it also provokes a response from the Catholic Church, leading to the Counter-Reformation. The Catholic Church undertakes significant reforms to address the criticisms leveled against it and to reassert its authority. The Council of Trent, convened between 1545 and 1563, clarifies Catholic doctrine, reforms church practices, and addresses corruption. The Jesuit order, founded by Ignatius of Loyola, plays a crucial role in revitalizing Catholic education and missionary work, contributing to the Church's resurgence. The Reformation and the Counter-Reformation together reshaped the religious, political, and cultural landscape of Europe. The conflicts and changes they provoke leave a lasting legacy, influencing the development of Western civilization and shaping the modern world. So, my dear listeners, we've explored the early stages and widespread impact of the Reformation. Stay with us as we delve deeper into the lives and contributions of the remarkable individuals who made this revolutionary movement possible and the enduring consequences of their actions. As the Reformation continues to unfold, we witness the lives and contributions of several remarkable individuals who become central figures in this transformative movement. These reformers, each in their own way, challenge the established order and advocate for a return to what they see as the true essence of Christianity. One of the earliest and most influential reformers is Martin Luther. Born in 1483 in Aachen, Germany, Luther initially studies law but later joins an Augustinian monastery, seeking spiritual fulfillment. His intense religious devotion and scholarly pursuits lead him to question many practices of the Catholic Church. The turning point in Luther's life comes in 1517 when he publicly posts his 95 Theses, challenging the sale of indulgences and other church practices. This act of defiance sets off a chain reaction, leading to widespread debate and, eventually, a break with the Catholic Church. Luther's teachings emphasize salvation through faith alone and the authority of the Scriptures over church traditions. His translation of the Bible into German makes the holy text accessible to ordinary people, empowering them to read and interpret it for themselves. Despite being excommunicated and declared an outlaw, Luther's ideas spread rapidly, thanks in part to the printing press. He finds protection and support from sympathetic princes, allowing him to continue his work and solidify the foundations of Lutheranism. Ulrich Zwingli, a contemporary of Luther, emerges as a leading figure of the Reformation in Switzerland. Born in 1484, Zwingli is deeply influenced by humanist scholarship and the writings of Erasmus. He becomes a priest and begins to preach against the excesses and corruption of the Catholic Church. Zwingli's reforms, initiated in Zurich, focus on returning to the simplicity of early Christianity. He rejects the use of images in churches, the veneration of saints, and the practice of fasting. Instead, he emphasizes the importance of Scripture and the need for a personal relationship with God. Zwingli's efforts to reform the Church in Zurich lead to significant changes in religious practices and governance. His ideas spread to other Swiss cities, creating a network of Reformed churches. Zwingli's influence extends beyond Switzerland, as his writings and teachings inspire other reformers across Europe. Despite facing opposition and conflict, including the brutal Battle of Kappel where he loses his life, Zwingli's legacy endures as a foundational figure in the Reformed tradition. Another towering figure of the Reformation is John Calvin. Born in 1509 in Noyon, France, Calvin is initially trained as a lawyer but turns to theology and becomes a prominent Protestant reformer. His magnum opus, The Institutes of the Christian Religion, systematically articulates Reformed theology and becomes a foundational text for Protestantism. Calvin's teachings on predestination, the absolute sovereignty of God, and the importance of a disciplined and moral Christian life resonate with many seeking spiritual and moral clarity. Calvin's impact is most strongly felt in Geneva, where he establishes a theocratic government that enforces strict moral codes and integrates church and state. Geneva becomes a center for Protestant learning and missionary activity, attracting reformers from across Europe. Calvin's influence extends to Scotland through John Knox, who adopts Calvinist principles and helps establish the Presbyterian Church. Calvinism also spreads to the Netherlands, France, and parts of Germany, shaping the religious landscape of these regions. In addition to these major reformers, the Reformation sees the rise of many other significant figures who contribute to the movement's diversity and dynamism. For example, William Tyndale, an English scholar and translator, is instrumental in making the Bible accessible to English-speaking laypeople. His translation work lays the foundation for future English versions of the Bible, including the King James Version. Tyndale's efforts come at great personal cost. He is eventually captured and executed for heresy, but his legacy endures through his contributions to the English Reformation. Another notable figure is Menno Simons, a former Catholic priest who becomes a leader in the Anabaptist movement. Born in 1496 in the Netherlands, Simons advocates for adult baptism, a pacifist lifestyle, and a separation from worldly affairs. The followers of his teachings, known as Mennonites, establish communities based on these principles. The Anabaptist movement, despite facing severe persecution, survives and influences other Protestant groups, including the Amish and the Hutterites. The Reformation also has profound implications for women who find new opportunities for religious expression and leadership. Women like Katharina von Bora, Luther's wife, play significant roles in supporting and advancing the Reformation. Katharina manages the Luther household, provides hospitality to students and reformers, and engages in theological discussions. Her partnership with Luther exemplifies the collaborative nature of the Reformation's domestic sphere. Furthermore, the Reformation prompts broader discussions about education and literacy. Protestant reformers advocate for universal education, believing that everyone should be able to read the Bible and engage with religious texts. This emphasis on literacy leads to the establishment of schools and universities, fostering an educated and informed populace. The promotion of literacy and education has long-lasting effects, contributing to the intellectual and cultural development of Europe. As the Reformation progresses, it encounters significant resistance from the Catholic Church, which launches the Counter-Reformation in response. The Council of Trent, convened between 1545 and 1563, addresses many of the issues raised by the reformers, including corruption, the sale of indulgences, and the need for clerical education. The Catholic Church reaffirms its doctrines and practices, emphasizing the importance of both scripture and tradition. The Jesuit order, founded by Ignatius of Loyola, becomes a driving force in the Counter-Reformation, focusing on education, missionary work, and the defense of Catholic orthodoxy. The Counter-Reformation also leads to a resurgence of religious art and architecture, as the Catholic Church seeks to inspire and instruct the faithful through visual and sensory experiences. This period sees the construction of grand churches and the creation of magnificent works of art by artists such as Caravaggio, Bernini, and El Greco. These efforts are aimed at reaffirming the power and glory of the Catholic Church and countering the influence of Protestantism. The Reformation and the Counter-Reformation together shaped the religious, political, and cultural landscape of Europe for centuries to come. The conflicts and changes they provoke lead to the development of modern nation-states, the rise of individualism, and the separation of church and state. The legacy of the Reformation is evident in the diverse religious traditions that continue to thrive and in the enduring principles of religious freedom and individual conscience. So, my dear listeners, we've explored the key figures and significant developments of the Reformation. Stay with us as we delve into the broader consequences of this religious upheaval and its lasting impact on Europe and the world. As we continue to explore the Reformation, it's crucial to understand its broader consequences and lasting impact on Europe and beyond. The Reformation not only redefined religious practice and belief, but also set in motion profound social, political, and cultural transformations that continue to shape the modern world. One of the most immediate and visible consequences of the Reformation was the fragmentation of Western Christianity. The unity of Christendom, which had been a defining feature of European identity for over 1,000 years, was irrevocably broken. The rise of Protestant denominations, Lutheranism, Calvinism, Anglicanism, and Anabaptism, among others, challenged the Catholic Church's monopoly on religious authority and practice. This religious pluralism led to a more diverse and decentralized religious landscape, with different regions and communities adopting distinct forms of worship and governance. This fragmentation had significant political ramifications. The Reformation empowered local rulers and states to assert greater control over religious and political matters. In Germany, the Peace of Augsburg allowed princes to choose the religion of their territories, leading to a patchwork of Lutheran and Catholic regions. This principle of cuius regio, ius religio, laid the groundwork for the modern concept of state sovereignty and the nation-state. Similarly, in England, the establishment of the Church of England under Henry VIII and the subsequent religious settlements under Elizabeth I reinforced the idea of a national church independent of papal authority. The religious conflicts and wars that erupted in the wake of the Reformation also played a crucial role in shaping the political map of Europe. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, one of the most devastating conflicts in European history, was both a religious and political struggle involving many of the continent's major powers. The war concluded with the Peace of Westphalia, which not only reaffirmed the principle of state sovereignty but also marked a turning point in the development of international relations. The treaties established the idea that states should not interfere in the internal affairs of other states, a principle that remains central to modern international law. The Reformation also had a profound impact on education and literacy. Protestant reformers, particularly those influenced by Calvin, placed a strong emphasis on the ability of individuals to read and interpret the Bible for themselves. This led to the establishment of schools and universities aimed at promoting literacy and religious education. In many Protestant regions, literacy rates began to rise, contributing to a more informed and engaged populace. The emphasis on education extended beyond religious instruction to include broader subjects such as science, philosophy, and the humanities, laying the foundations for the Enlightenment and the modern intellectual tradition. Culturally, the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation sparked a flourishing of art, music, and literature. Protestant regions saw the creation of hymns, psalms, and religious texts in the vernacular, making religious worship more accessible to the general population. Composers like Johann Sebastian Bach and George Friedrich Handel produced sacred music that reflected Protestant themes and values. In contrast, the Catholic Counter-Reformation emphasized the use of art and architecture to inspire faith and devotion. The Baroque style, characterized by dramatic, emotional, and elaborate designs, became a powerful tool for the Catholic Church to convey its message and attract the faithful. The Reformation also influenced the development of modern science. The questioning of established authorities and the emphasis on individual inquiry and observation that characterized the Reformation had parallels in the scientific revolution. Figures like Galileo Galilei and Isaac Newton, who challenged traditional views of the cosmos and developed new scientific methods, operated in a cultural context shaped by the Reformation's spirit of inquiry and skepticism. The idea that knowledge could be discovered through observation and experimentation rather than merely accepted from established authorities became a cornerstone of the scientific method. Economically, the Reformation contributed to the rise of capitalism and the modern economic system. The Protestant work ethic, famously described by sociologist Max Weber, emphasized hard work, thrift, and frugality as religious virtues. This ethic was particularly influential in Calvinist regions, where it encouraged economic activity and the accumulation of wealth as a sign of divine favor. The growth of a market economy, driven by these values, laid the groundwork for the development of capitalism and the modern economic system. The legacy of the Reformation is also evident in the principles of religious freedom and tolerance that underpin modern liberal democracies. The religious conflicts and persecutions that marked the Reformation era underscored the dangers of religious intolerance and the need for principles of religious liberty. Over time, these ideas evolved into the concepts of separation of church and state and the protection of individual religious rights enshrined in many modern constitutions and international human rights instruments. The Reformation's impact extended beyond Europe to the wider world. Protestant missionaries, motivated by the desire to spread their faith, traveled to the Americas, Africa, and Asia, establishing churches and schools. The encounter between European Christianity and indigenous cultures led to significant cultural exchanges and, at times, conflicts. The legacy of these missionary efforts is still visible today in the diverse religious landscapes of many countries around the world. As we reflect on the Reformation, it is clear that this period of religious upheaval was much more than a series of theological disputes. It was a catalyst for profound and lasting changes that reshaped Europe and influenced the development of the modern world. The Reformation challenged established authorities, promoted individual inquiry and literacy, and laid the groundwork for many of the political, economic, and cultural developments that define our world today. Thank you for joining me on this whispered journey through history. The story of the Reformation is a testament to the power of ideas and the enduring quest for spiritual and intellectual freedom. Stay tuned for more explorations of pivotal moments and figures in history. Key figures of the Reformation. Martin Luther. Martin Luther, born in 1483 in Alben, Germany, is one of the most influential figures in Christian history. He was an Augustinian monk and a university professor who became a central figure in the Protestant Reformation. In 1517, Luther famously nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Castle Church, challenging the Catholic Church's practice of selling indulgences and other forms of corruption. His belief that salvation could be reached through faith alone and that the Bible is the ultimate authority for Christians set the stage for widespread religious reform. Luther's translation of the Bible into German made the scriptures accessible to ordinary people, fostering a sense of personal connection to the divine. John Calvin, born in 1509 in Noyon, France, was a principal figure in the development of the system of Christian theology later called Calvinism. Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion is considered one of the most important works of Protestant theology. Calvin emphasized the sovereignty of God, the doctrine of predestination, and the importance of a disciplined and moral Christian life. He established a theocratic government in Geneva that became a model for Reformed churches throughout Europe. Calvin's influence extended to Scotland, the Netherlands, and parts of Germany, profoundly shaping the Reformation and the development of Protestantism. Ulrich Zwingli, born in 1484 in Wildhaus, Switzerland, was a leader of the Reformation in Switzerland. Influenced by the humanism of Erasmus, Zwingli began to preach reform in Zurich, emphasizing the authority of the scriptures over church traditions. He rejected practices such as fasting and the veneration of saints, advocating for a return to the simplicity of early Christianity. Zwingli's reforms included the removal of images from churches and the introduction of more participatory worship. Despite his untimely death in the Battle of Kappel, Zwingli's ideas significantly influenced Protestantism in Switzerland and beyond. John Wycliffe, born around 1320s in England, was an early critic of the Catholic Church. He called for a return to the teachings of the Bible and opposed the wealth and power of the clergy. Wycliffe translated the Bible into English, making it accessible to ordinary people and challenging the Church's control over religious knowledge. His ideas, though suppressed during his lifetime, laid the groundwork for future reformers and earned him the title of the Morning Star of the Reformation. Jan Hus, born in 1369 in Husinec, Bohemia, now the Czech Republic, was a Czech priest and philosopher who became a key predecessor to Protestantism. Influenced by Wycliffe's writings, Hus advocated for church reform and spoke out against the moral failings of the clergy. He was excommunicated and later burned at the stake for heresy in 1415, but his teachings lived on, sparking the Hussite Wars and influencing later reformers like Martin Luther. Hus is remembered as a martyr and a hero of the Czech Reformation. Ignatius of Loyola, born in 1491 in Spain, was a prominent figure in the Counter-Reformation. He founded the Society of Jesus, Jesuits, in 1540, which became a leading force in the Catholic Church's efforts to reform itself and counter the Protestant Reformation. Loyola's spiritual exercises and emphasis on education and missionary work played a significant role in revitalizing the Catholic Church and expanding its influence globally. William Tyndale, born in 1494 in England, was an influential scholar and translator. He is best known for his translation of the Bible into English, which made the scriptures accessible to the common people and laid the foundation for future English translations, including the King James Version. Tyndale's work was controversial, and he was executed for heresy in 1536, but his contributions to the English Reformation and the spread of Protestantism were profound. Menno Simons. Menno Simons, born in 1496 in the Netherlands, was a former Catholic priest who became a leader in the Anabaptist movement. He advocated for adult baptism, a pacifist lifestyle, and separation from worldly affairs. The Mennonite communities, which followed his teachings, emphasized simplicity, community, and discipleship. Despite severe persecution, the Anabaptist movement survived and influenced other Protestant groups, including the Amish and Hutterites. Thomas Cranmer. Thomas Cranmer, born in 1489 in Islington, England, was a leader of the English Reformation and the first Protestant Archbishop of Canterbury. Cranmer helped Henry VIII secure the annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, which led to England's break with the Catholic Church. He was instrumental in the establishment of the Church of England and authored the Book of Common Prayer, which standardized English worship practices. Cranmer's theological influence and his efforts to shape the religious landscape of England were significant, although he was eventually executed for heresy under Queen Mary I. Philip Melanchthon. Philip Melanchthon, born in 1497 in Bretagne, Germany, was a German reformer and collaborator with Martin Luther. Known for his intellectual rigor and gentle demeanor, Melanchthon played a key role in systematizing Lutheran theology and helped write the Augsburg Confession, a foundational document of Lutheranism. His work in education reform also had a lasting impact, emphasizing the importance of classical education and the study of languages. Melanchthon's contributions to the Reformation were essential in articulating and spreading Lutheran ideas. John Knox. John Knox, born around 1514 in Haddington, Scotland, was the leader of the Scottish Reformation. Influenced by John Calvin, Knox advocated for a Presbyterian church government and played a crucial role in the establishment of the Church of Scotland. His fiery sermons and writings against Catholicism galvanized Scottish support for Protestantism. Knox's leadership helped shape Scotland's religious identity and contributed to the spread of Reformed theology. Aldrich Zwingli. Aldrich Zwingli, born in 1484 in Wildhaus, Switzerland, was a leader of the Reformation in Switzerland. Zwingli's reforms in Zurich focused on the authority of the scriptures, rejecting the use of images in churches, and promoting a simple, unadorned form of worship. He emphasized the importance of community and social justice in Christian practice. Zwingli's influence extended beyond Switzerland, and his ideas significantly impacted the development of Protestantism in Europe.